I, female in my 30s, have been with my husband, male in his 30s, for 5 years. Recently, in the last year, he has started a new job position where he shares his role with his coworker, Chelsea, female in her 20s. I've noticed that Chelsea has increasingly pushed my limits of comfort, and I frankly just don't trust her. I've known Chelsea and her family for years prior to my marriage, and I wasn't keen on her then either. She does and says strange things that I don't believe are malicious, but it's almost like she wants to be a second wife to him. I don't feel insecure about her, but I feel creeped out. She's shared with me that she sees my husband as like a brother, which irks me because she has an awesome brother and I'm friends with her brother. She often calls, texts, and FaceTimes about work-related and unrelated topics, and I've heard someone refer to her as his work wife. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed away last month and it has been utter hell. In the midst of grief, Chelsea texted asking how my husband was doing and how she cries every day thinking about him, and had told me that she knows exactly what I'm going through. No, she doesn't. And that she can't wait to give my husband a huge hug. Fast forward a little bit and she was drunk at a party and saw my husband leaving, where she confronted him on why he was leaving. He told her, "I didn't think I had to tell you what I'm doing," resulting in her panic texting him afterward to make sure they were okay and trying to get him to talk to her by saying, "You can open up and talk to me or vent or just tell me to shut the F up." Strange to me. There have been more instances, but I know I have a limit. Anyways, his birthday was last week and she called him asking for his shirt size, and she made it a point to let him know she'll never forget his birthday. Like, why are you so creepy sometimes, girlfriend? Yesterday I was cleaning the kitchen when he walks in and I notice he's wearing an unfamiliar shirt. I asked if it was new and he said, "Chelsea got it for me." And my blood boiled. Instant rage, and I went quiet. He asked if I cared and I remained silent and walked away. I'm usually a huge communicator, but his mom just passed and he asked for no drama, and I'm trying my hardest to respect that. But I know I have zero patience and want to tell him it's effing weird how involved a coworker is trying to become in his life, and she needs to back down and focus on her own engagement. Everyone I talk to says I'm not in the wrong, and she's being creepy. But I feel bad for ignoring my husband and walking away from him. I saw he looked upset and confused, but I know he's already overwhelmed with grief and don't want to make things worse. So, am I the ahole? Eta? Update. Okay, we have news, so just to clarify some things first. For some additional background. 1. I have known Chelsea and her family prior to my marriage through some mutual connections, and her family being very, very close with my ex and his family, hence some hesitancy. I became close friends with her brother, and he became a part of my group of friends, etc., etc. She did not meet my husband until they both started working for the same company. So I was not very close with Chelsea, but we always saw and interacted cordially. 2. I did not tell Chelsea his shirt size. She called my husband and asked him his shirt size, where he told her. I would have never told her his size and would have made some joke saying that he has enough shirts and not to bother buying him anymore. 3. I wish I added this earlier, but my husband and I have had conversations about my feelings regarding Chelsea and her behaviors. I've tried everything from being sweet, aloof, concerned, and outright angry. Each time I've been met with some variation of him understanding, but Chelsea is neurotic. He never dismisses my feelings outright, but he attempts to be sensitive to her mental state and says that he has no issue stepping in if or when necessary. However, I've found it necessary, and it's clear he isn't trying to have the confrontation up until the shirt event. 4. My husband requesting no drama stems from a series of events that occurred within his family and work life that drained his emotional battery, leading him to just ask for smooth sailing and finding his new normal. I do have a history of struggling to manage my anger during arguments, but I have taken the steps and done what is necessary to address my anger, to make sure my marriage does not suffer, and we have been amazing. I did want to be mindful that what he has endured with family and other aspects of his life has impacted his mood, which led him to openly ask the universe for some peace and no drama, which made me internalize his message. Also, we are scheduled to have our first marriage counseling session this upcoming week, just to really make sure we iron out any issues, and I wanted to make sure when I had my update that I had some juice and evidence of change to give you all. As for the talk, it went amazing. I sat down with my husband and just told him that there were some things that I wanted to bring to his attention, and included a variation of what was in the comments, along with my own words, to really drive home the fact that I'm beyond my limit and wanted him to have it on his radar. My husband was very attentive and validating. We talked for a while, and although there were moments where we both didn't seem to understand one another, we tried hard to use some affair fighting rules I've gotten from my therapist, and that really seemed to help. He gave me his point of view, and we talked about how my walking away made him feel awful, and how I was upset that he knew I would be mad seeing him wearing the shirt. I made sure to accept my role in this situation, and he was able to do the same. Turns out that my husband has already had a chat with Chelsea and put her in her place after my reaction, leading Chelsea to then have a 3-day temper tantrum and constantly seeking reassurance and validation from my husband, in the form of texts and in-person harassment. My husband finally had enough and told her that if she didn't knock it off, he would pursue this through his chain of command and HR. That seemed to stop her in her tracks, sorta, where she then started to tell him that she was having troubles at home. And my husband responded with, "Sorry to hear that. Good luck with everything." She did not like this. He has since then put up some serious boundaries, and we both came up with some ideas that we were both comfortable with and won't stress out his work environment more. I can't thank this community enough for helping me get my A in gear. For all comments, the loving and supportive, ugly and blunt, and the indifferent, I thank you all for taking your time to share your input. This could have possibly saved my marriage. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Talk to your husband immediately and say, "This isn't drama, this is threatening our relationship. You need to set boundaries with this coworker, and you need to do it now. No more calling her your work wife, no more of this weird, clingy friendship. You become coworkers and you draw lines. This is too much, and that shirt is the last straw. Stop it now. You might not see it, but she's either inappropriate by nature or she's trying to start an affair." Comment 2. Not the I don't know your communication, but I would just sit him down and ask bluntly if he's interested in having an affair with Chelsea because she's trying hard to get with him. If he's trying to downplay the situation, ask him if he would be okay with you flirting and texting with one of your male acquaintances. In the long run, he has to cut this woman out of his life. She seems to not know how to have a platonic friendship with him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post and for all your support and advice. It's been a month since I last updated, and a lot has happened. After my husband and I had our talk, things seemed to be going well. He had set clear boundaries with Chelsea, and she seemed to be respecting them. However, about 2 weeks ago, something happened that changed everything. My husband came home from work visibly upset. He told me that Chelsea had cornered him in the break room and confessed her feelings for him. She said she couldn't stop thinking about him and that she wanted to be with him. My husband was shocked and told her that he was happily married and had no interest in her. Chelsea didn't take it well and started crying, saying that she thought they had a connection. The next day at work, Chelsea acted like nothing had happened. She continued to text and call my husband, trying to engage him in conversation. My husband was uncomfortable and didn't know how to handle the situation. He decided to go to HR and report what had happened. HR launched an investigation, and it turned out that Chelsea had a history of inappropriate behavior with male coworkers. She had been warned before but had never faced any serious consequences. This time, however, the company decided to terminate her employment. When Chelsea found out she was being fired, she lost it. She showed up at our house in the middle of the night, banging on the door and screaming. She was clearly drunk and kept saying that my husband had led her on and that he owed her an explanation. I called the police and they escorted her off our property. The whole experience was traumatic for both my husband and me. We realized that Chelsea's behavior had been escalating for a long time, and we hadn't taken it seriously enough. My husband felt guilty for not setting firmer boundaries earlier, and I felt guilty for not trusting my instincts about Chelsea from the beginning. In the weeks since the incident, my husband and I have been working on rebuilding our trust and communication. We've been going to therapy together, and it's been helpful to have a neutral third party to talk to. We've also been more open with each other about our feelings and concerns. One thing that's come up in therapy is my husband's tendency to avoid confrontation. He admitted that he had been hesitant to confront Chelsea earlier because he didn't want to make things awkward at work. He also revealed that he had been bullied as a child and had learned to avoid conflict as a coping mechanism. This revelation helped me understand my husband's behavior better. I realized that he wasn't trying to dismiss my feelings or prioritize Chelsea's comfort over mine. He was simply struggling with his own issues and didn't know how to handle the situation. We've also been talking more about my own insecurities and trust issues. I've always struggled with jealousy in relationships, and the situation with Chelsea brought up a lot of old wounds. I've been working on building my self-esteem and learning to trust my husband more. Overall, the past month has been pretty hard on us of emotions. But I feel like my husband and I have come out stronger on the other side. We've learned a lot about ourselves and each other, and we're committed to working on our marriage every day. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It means the world to me to have this community to turn to in times of need. Am I the idiot for moving out to escape my ex-husband's advances, even though we reunited for our child's sake? Updates below. I know it seems odd, two people who have been divorced for more than 10 years deciding to cohabitate. Well, our teenager was getting horribly bullied in school. I took the issue all the way to the school board and nothing was being done. My son ended up having to be hospitalized for the depression and suicidal thoughts. It's been several months and it has certainly proven to have made a difference for the kids, especially my teenager. This in itself should make it worth everything. However, since I moved in, I have had to continually defend the boundaries that I have been very clear on from the beginning. He wishes for us to be together again and finds a way to bring it up whenever he can. He uses pet names that were common for us when we were married, words that are for spouses, not roommates. He continuously invades my personal space, uses every opportunity to touch me when he knows it isn't what I want. He gets offended when I call him on it, and swears he means nothing by it. He utilizes phrases such as, "I'm not the same person I was. I wish you could see that." He apologizes and swears he doesn't do it on purpose. But then, after a few days, it starts back up again as though he didn't hear a word I said, or that he simply thinks he can wear me down. It's wearing on me emotionally. I feel like I am constantly on the edge of fight or flight. At my age, it leans more towards fight, where in my youth, freeze and flight were more common. However, living life feeling like you have to be on constant guard is affecting my mental health. It makes me angry. Am I the jerk for aggressively defending my personal space, my boundaries? Even though we came to an agreement that instead of him paying child support, I live here rent-free? Or should I be grateful for our children's happiness and the reduced stress of being the sole responsible party and keep quiet to keep the peace? My children's happiness is of the utmost importance to me, but I am so miserable. Edited to add, we have been divorced and living separately for 10 years. I have a successful career. This move was in the hopes that it would help our teenager who is currently going through some extremely difficult things. Update. I sincerely was not expecting this level of response so quickly. My 14-year-old was dealing with bullies where I lived. Even after going to the school and school board, they still were not doing their due diligence. It came to the point that he had to be hospitalized. When he got out, he asked if we could move to the area where his dad lives, as it is in a different school district. His dad brought up the cohabitation/co-parent option to my son. My son convinced me it would be the best thing for his mental health. I would rather be unhappy than have to bury my child. I agreed with the stipulation that it would be a co-parenting situation only. I made it clear that we were roommates only, and there was absolutely no chance of reconciliation. We discussed rent and agreed that I would forego child support instead of paying rent. At every turn, I have aggressively defended those boundaries and made it very clear. I appreciate all of the candid advice, and my plan has always been that as soon as my son's mental health is better, I will begin looking for my own place nearby. I'm sorry if parts of my original post seemed unclear. The advances didn't start until after we all had been under the same roof for several weeks. I'm angry and frustrated, as well as viscerally terrified of losing my child to depression. Update with questions answered. Okay, I'm going to try to answer a few of the questions that I've seen. The response to this post is kind of overwhelming considering I'm usually just a Reddit lurker. 1. A duplex isn't really an option because of where we live unless we were to build one. 2. This area is extremely rural, so the quickest option would probably be a camper, which I've already been shopping for. 3. The things he does and says are very subtle and never where the kids can see, which I now realize was probably his intention. so they are currently unaware of the conflict. But they both are 100% aware of my feelings about not getting back with their dad. 4. I have already installed a lock on my bedroom. 5. The kids and I are in therapy. He participates as well, but I haven't seen those appointments be particularly helpful yet. 6. Should he ever resort to violence, I would 100% fight fire with fire. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You ended things for a reason. Where you went wrong is thinking that you need to live together to have a strong co-parenting relationship. Of course, it would be difficult because you were together previously, so having boundaries and having them respected is hard. I wish you had taken the child support because you have set yourself up for issues like this in the future. What you can do is either move out and fight for child support and everything else you need to support your children on paper, or if there is a basement, turn that into an apartment for yourself. You have also limited yourself. You are a single woman. What life can you live when you are living with an ex? I suggest you figure things out immediately. Comment 2. I don't know your history, but the fact that you have clearly dictated your boundaries and he repeatedly keeps crossing them, to the point it is affecting your mental health, is exactly why the situation isn't working. Not the idiot. And I would seriously reconsider your living situation. If you can afford it, maybe arrange custody where the two of you rotate in and out of the kids' home and have your own personal spaces for off weeks. Now, for the update. Thank you all for your comments and support on my last post. It's been a challenging week since I last updated, and I feel like I'm at my wit's end. The situation with my ex-husband has only escalated. Despite my clear boundaries and repeated attempts to maintain a strictly co-parenting relationship, he continues to push the limits. Last Tuesday, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when he came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I immediately tensed up and told him to stop, but he just laughed it off, saying he was only trying to help. I had to physically remove his hands from my body and walk away. Later that night, I found a note slipped under my bedroom door. It was a letter from him expressing his feelings and how much he missed our relationship. He wrote about the memories we shared and how he believed we could make things work again. I was furious. I confronted him the next morning, making it crystal clear that his behavior was unacceptable and that I had no intention of rekindling our marriage. He apologized, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. As the week progressed, I noticed my ex-husband spending more time with our children, particularly our teenager. While I appreciate his efforts to be a supportive father, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was using this as a way to manipulate the situation. He would make comments like, "Isn't it great that we're all together again? Just like old times." I could see the confusion on our children's faces, and it broke my heart. The breaking point came on Friday evening. I was in my room getting ready for bed when I heard a knock on the door. It was my ex-husband holding a bouquet of flowers. He started professing his love for me, saying that he had changed and that we belonged together. I lost my temper. I yelled at him, telling him that his behavior was bordering on harassment and that I would not tolerate it any longer. I threatened to move out if he didn't respect my boundaries. The argument escalated, and our children overheard the commotion. They came running, visibly upset and confused. I tried to reassure them that everything was okay, but I could see the pain in their eyes. It was a stark reminder of why we had divorced in the first place, the constant fighting and tension. In the aftermath of that incident, I've been reflecting on my past with my ex-husband. I remember the early days of our marriage, how he would often dismiss my feelings and opinions. He had a way of making me feel small and insignificant. I thought I had moved past those memories, but living under the same roof has brought them all flooding back. I've also been thinking about my own childhood and how it has shaped my relationships. Growing up, I witnessed my parents' tumultuous marriage filled with arguments and resentment. I swore I would never end up in a similar situation. But here I am, reliving those painful experiences. As I write this update, I'm at a crossroads. I know that my children's well-being is my top priority, but I also realize that I cannot sacrifice my own mental health and happiness. I'm considering looking for a place of my own nearby, so I can still be close to my kids while maintaining a healthy distance from my ex-husband. I'm sorry if this update seems scattered or emotional. It's been, well, interesting of a week, and I'm still trying to process everything. I appreciate all the advice and support from this community. It's comforting to know that I'm not alone in this struggle. Thank you for reading and for your continued understanding. Am I the idiot for selling my car to pay off my stepdaughter's debt after she assaulted her mom? Hello, Reddit. I, 41-year-old male, and my wife, 39-year-old female, have 2 kids, 18-year-old female and 16-year-old male. I'm the step-parent. Needless to say, there are some tensions, mostly with the 18-year-old female. For the last good bit, she acts like everything is a huge chore. Her mom and I have both tried talking to her. She has an attitude every time we try to get any sort of information about anything she's doing. She's shoved her mom against the wall. She's about twice the size of my wife, who is smaller than the stepdaughter is big. She got the police called on her for running away that same day, and to be honest, this part really irks me ... in the middle of all this. Looked me dead in the eye and said, "What are you gonna do about it?" I almost went to jail that day, but I kept my cool. I know I would not have been able to sit for a month if I did that to my mom, but these are different times. She just got grounded. Leading up to that, and since then, it's been a non-stop marathon of her attitude, being mean, disrespectful, and hateful towards her mom, and I'm at my wit's end. In an effort to try and keep the peace, I offered to co-sign for her so she could take over her mom's car, about $270 a month for a 2018 Cruise. We still owe about $6,000 or $7,000 on it. Give her some responsibility and freedom at the same time. She could stay on our insurance. All she has to do is pay for the car. I wanted this to help her build some credit and get a decent start in life. Also, I hoped that if she was able to get away, maybe the tensions would lessen. She at first said yes, so we planned for that, got her mom a car that she wants, and waited for the stepdaughter's 18th birthday so she could officially take over the car. About a week before her 18th birthday, she changed her mind. Doesn't want the car now. Mind you, the attitude and the everyone revolve around me attitude is still in and out, depending on if she wants something or not. So now I'm selling my car to help pay off the Cruise, and I'm going to take it over. With that, her last day of school is today, so I told her that she was done using the car then. She wants to go to her boyfriend's graduation and asked to use the car for the night. I said no. I'm done with her being hateful to her mom and expecting everyone to bow to her every whim. Told her we wouldn't be dropping her off halfway. If she wants to go, she's welcome to go, but he'll have to come get her. To be honest, I don't really feel all that bad about it. Should I feel worse than I do? Am I the jerk here? Update. Keys have been taken. She's expected to get her own rides to work or anywhere else she expects to go. I'm pretty sure her days here are numbered, but I'm also pretty sure she'll just go to live with her grandma, who recently was able to get her 40-something son and his wife to move out on their own. This seems to be a recurring problem on the bio dad's side, so happy to let them deal with it. I promise you all that if any physical violence happens again, you'll all catch me on the news. Everyone that said I should have done something sooner was 100% correct. I won't be making that mistake again. Thank you all for the advice and helpful words. I've been wrestling with this for some time since I'm not the parent, and I'm not sure where to inject myself into these situations. I have a much clearer picture now and will move forward accordingly. Bless you all. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. If she wants to do things the hard way, let her. She's 18 years old, so she can figure it out. If she ever puts her hands on her mom again, I would absolutely call the police and have her hauled off to jail, and her belongings would be on the steps when she got out. Comment 2. She is now officially an adult. Since she seems to think she can act the way she wants and treat her parents badly, it's time for her to move out. Give her a 30-day notice to vacate. You've done nothing wrong. She is an entitled brat. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post and for all the advice and support. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, and I wanted to give you an update on the situation with my stepdaughter. Shortly after my last post, my stepdaughter's attitude took a turn for the worse. She became even more disrespectful and hostile towards her mother and me. One evening, when her mom asked her to help with some household chores, she completely lost it. She started screaming at her mom, calling her names, and even threw a plate across the room, narrowly missing her younger brother. It was a shocking display of anger and aggression that left us all shaken. In the days that followed, We tried to have a calm discussion with her about her behavior, but she refused to listen. She kept insisting that we were being unfair and that we didn't understand her. It was clear that something was deeply troubling her, but she wouldn't open up to us. As the tension in the house continued to escalate, I started to dig deeper into my stepdaughter's past. I had a long conversation with her grandmother, who revealed some disturbing details about her childhood. Apparently, her biological father had been emotionally hurtful towards her and her mother for years before they finally left him. The trauma of those early experiences had left deep scars on my stepdaughter's psyche, and it was clear that she was still struggling to come to terms with it. Armed with this new information, I approached my stepdaughter again, but this time with a different perspective. Instead of trying to lecture her or punish her, I simply listened. I let her vent her frustrations and anger, and I tried to empathize with her pain. It wasn't easy, but slowly, she started to open up to me. She told me about the constant fear and anxiety she had felt growing up with her father, and how she had never really learned how to process those emotions in a healthy way. She admitted that she often lashed out at her mother and me because she didn't know how else to cope with her inner turmoil. It was a breakthrough moment for both of us. For the first time, I felt like I truly understood where she was coming from, and I realized that my previous approach had been all wrong. I had been trying to force her to change her behavior without addressing the underlying issues that were driving it. Over the next few days, my wife and I worked with my stepdaughter to come up with a plan to help her deal with her emotions in a more constructive way. We found a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma and arranged for her to start sessions right away. We also made a point of spending more quality time together as a family, doing activities that we all enjoyed, and creating positive memories to counterbalance the negative ones. It hasn't been easy, and there have been plenty of setbacks along the way. Just last week, my stepdaughter had a particularly bad day and ended up storming out of the house in a rage. But instead of getting angry or punishing her, we simply gave her some space to cool off, and then talked it through when she was ready. Slowly but surely, things are starting to improve. My stepdaughter is learning to communicate her feelings more effectively, and she's starting to take responsibility for her actions. She's even started to apologize when she knows she's crossed a line, which is a huge step forward for her. Of course, there's still a long way to go, and I know that there will be more challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're on the right track. By taking the time to understand my stepdaughter's perspective and addressing the root causes of her behavior, we've been able to make real progress towards healing our family. I want to thank all of you again for your support and advice. It's been a tough journey, but knowing that there are people out there who understand what we're going through has made all the difference. I'll keep you posted on how things go from here, but for now, I'm just grateful to have a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Thanks for reading, everyone. Until next time, take care. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.